Hello friends. Now this is the second part of my lecture on that is blood regulation part 2. In first part, say I have discussed here there are various mechanisms which are involved in regulating say blood pressure. And we have categorized this all say mechanism under three categories: rapidly and short acting mechanism, intermediate acting mechanism, long term acting mechanism. If you remember that, so far what we have discussed in the rapidly short acting mechanism, we have discussed here say baroreceptors, chemoreceptors, CNS ischemic response. There is other category which is included under rapidly short acting mechanism, that is say other rapidly acting mechanism, say which are say low pressure receptors, bend bridge reflex, then volume receptors, and that is the intermediate acting mechanisms. Under this, we have discussed here the two important mechanisms: capillary fluid shift mechanism and stress relaxation of blood vessel. Under long-term acting mechanism, we were discussing here about renin-angiotensin system and renal body fluid system. Now we have discussed here about say renin-angiotensin system. Now as we know that in the renin-angiotensin, say what is the stimulus for the say that is the secretion of that is the renin is that decrease in the blood pressure, say which cause release of say that is the renin from prorenin from the extraglomerular apparatus of the kidney. Now this acts on that is the alpha 2 say globulin say that protein, that what we call it as a angiotensinogen plasma protein, which converts it into the angiotensin 1. Now further say angiotensin 1 through circulation reaches to the lungs, and it is say acted by here say angiotensin converting enzyme say in the lungs to convert it into angiotensin 2. Then here say that is what is the further action of angiotensin 2, that we know that it causes the vasoconstriction of the say vasoconstriction of blood vessel. It causes vasoconstriction of the blood pressure to raise blood pressure, and secondly it say acts on the aldosterone. Similarly, aldosterone further say that is acts on that is the say that kidney to cause here increase water and sodium retention, just to mention here say that your body fluid volume, and that helps here to cause increase in the blood pressure. Remember here that angiotensin 2 acts on that is the say adrenal cortex of that is the renal gland, and say it is released from that part. Similarly, this angiotensin 2 is further say converted in the angiotensin 3 by the enzyme angiotensinase, which is present say in the say that is the blood. Similarly, now the next mechanism is that is the renal body fluid system. This is a primitive system, and it is also developed in lower animals. It is a simple system in which output for excretion of water and salt by the kidneys is very sensitive to pressure changes. Means if there is an increase in the blood volume, that will cause increase in the blood pressure. Due to this increased blood pressure, the kidneys excrete excessive amount of water and salt, that is sodium ions, and this is called as a diuresis, since it say that is called excretion of water, and natriuresis, excretion of that is salt, because it is due to an increase in the blood pressure, which is called as a pressure diuresis. And and say in this pressure diuresis we have seen these are the two changes which are observed. When blood pressure is 15 mm of mercury, there is no output of water and salt by the kidney. When the pressure is about 100 mm of mercury, the output is normal. Similarly, if suppose that if pressure increases up to 200 mg, then output say increases to 6 to 8 times than normal level. Whenever there is rise in extracellular fluid, blood pressure rises, kidney will excrete extra amounts of fluid and sodium till the blood comes back to normal. If there is a decrease in the extracellular fluid, blood pressure will decrease and excretion of water and salt will decrease. Or you may say retention will occur, and both will be retained till blood pressure becomes normal. Means exactly opposite effects are seen when salt intake is decreased when there is a volume of extracellular fluid decreases. Now just give a look to this figure. Say, in this situation there will occur increase in the salt intake, then that will help here to cause increase in the extracellular fluid volume, and that will here help to cause increase in the arterial blood pressure, and that helps here to maintain normal renal blood flow. And this helps to cause retention of salt and water, and that helps here to cause return of extracellular fluid to normal. And finally, it leads to the normalizing the blood pressure, or it causes return of blood pressure to normal. Now, in the renal body fluid system, there are two factors which determine the functioning of this system. Number one, excretion of salt and water by the kidneys. Second, the intake of salt and water by individual. Whenever there is decrease in intake of water or increase in salt intake, the body causes an increase in extracellular fluid volume to maintain a normal osmolarity, that is osmoles per liter of plasma. Hence, increase in extracellular fluid is caused by two mechanisms. What is these two mechanisms? Increased osmolarity of extracellular fluid volume stimulates the thirst center, and which will cause increased intake of water, hence osmolarity becomes normal. Increased osmolarity stimulates here secretion of ADH, and which acts on kidneys to cause reabsorption of water, and this increased water also helps to bring osmolarity to normal. In the long term acting mechanism, there is one hormone just I have mentioned here, that is the antidiuretic hormone. Now this is the second mechanism by which blood pressure is regulated, and is release of antidiuretic hormone from the supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus in response to the thirst or an increased plasma osmolarity. ADH acts to increase the permeability of the collecting duct to water by inserting aquaporin channels, these are called as AQP2, into the apical membrane. It also stimulates sodium reabsorption from the thick ascending ring of the loop of Henle. This increases water reabsorption, thus increasing plasma volume and decreasing osmolarity. Similarly, there are also some of the other control mechanism or further control of the blood pressure also occurs. Now, other factors that can affect long-term regulation of blood pressure are natriuretic peptides. These include here atrial natriuretic peptide, which is synthesized and stored in the cardiac myocytes. It is released when the atria are stretched, indicating of high blood pressure. Atrial natriuretic peptides, or ANP, acts to promote sodium excretion. It dilates the afferent arteriole of the glomerulus, increasing blood pressure, that is GFR. Then moreover, ANP inhibits sodium reabsorption along the nephron. Conversely, ANP secretion is also low when blood pressure is low. There is other substance that we know, prostaglandin, which acts as local vasodilators to increase GFR and reduce sodium reabsorption. They also act to prevent excessive vasoconstriction triggered by the sympathetic nervous and renin angiotensin aldosterone systems. Now there is also other mechanism, what we call it as a local regulation of blood pressure. Tissues and organs within the body are able to intrinsically regulate the varying degree their own blood supply in order to meet their metabolic and functional needs. That is the inbuilt capacity of the body to regulate the blood pressure according to the changes which are occurring in that is the blood pressure or blood supply. This is termed local or intrinsic regulation of blood flow. Local regulatory mechanisms act independently of extrinsic control mechanisms such as sympathetic nerves and circulating hormones. Therefore, they can be demonstrated in isolated perfused organs having no neural or hormonal influences. Ultimately, the balance between local regulatory mechanism and extrinsic factor in vivo determines the vascular tone and therefore the blood flow within the tissue. Now, there are some of the examples of local regulation of blood flow which include the following: autoregulation, active hyperemia and reactive hyperemia. We have just seen autoregulation. So what do you mean by the hyperemia? Hyperemia refers to a localized increase in the blood volume of a particular tissue due to local arteriolar dilation. This is very important. It can affect many different organs including say the liver, heart, skin, eyes and the brain. Now there are two types of say hyperemia, just you have noted: active hyperemia and reactive hyperemia. Now what is this reactive hyperemia? Reactive hyperemia is the blood flow where responses to the blood flow occurs to the blood flow occlusion, whereas active hyperemia is the blood flow response to increased tissue metabolic activity. Now in the local say there is a regulation of the blood pressure, we will first see the autoregulation. This is the capacity of the tissues to regulate their own blood pressure is called as autoregulation. It is defined as the intrinsic ability of an organ to maintain a constant blood flow despite changes in perfusion pressure. What is this perfusion pressure? That is arterial minus venous pressure. Different organs display varying degree of autoregulatory behavior. For example, the renal, cerebral and coronary circulation show excellent type of autoregulation, whereas skeletal muscle and splanchnic circulation show moderate autoregulation. The cutaneous circulation shows little or no autoregulatory capacity. Under what conditions does autoregulation occur and why it is important? A change in systemic arterial pressure, as occurs for example with hypotension caused by hypovolemia or circulatory shock, can lead to the autoregulatory responses in certain organs, and this is one of the conditions where autoregulation is maintained. And why it is important? This autoregulation is particularly important in organs such as the brain, heart and kidney, in which partial occlusion of large arteries can lead to significant reduction in oxygen delivery, thereby leading to tissue hypoxia and organ dysfunction. Autoregulation is present in many vascular beds, but it is particularly well developed, as just mentioned, in the brain, kidney, mesentery, skeletal muscle, liver and myocardium. It is due to intrinsic contractile response of smooth muscle to stretch. That is, there is one theory which is related to the autoregulation, that what we call it the myogenic theory of autoregulation, where there occurs the contractile response of the smooth muscle to stretch. When pressure rises, the blood vessels are distended and the vascular smooth muscle fibers surrounding the vessels contract according to Laplace law. Now the vasodilator substances accumulate during slower blood flow in active tissue to cause autoregulation. That is what we call it as a other type of say the theory, what we call it as, that is a metabolic theory of autoregulation, where in the due to the metabolism there is the accumulation of vasodilator substance which cause here say vasodilation, and say they help here to say autoregulate, that is the blood flow. Brain flow autoregulation is abolished in several disease states such as traumatic brain injury, stroke, brain tumors or persistently abnormal high carbon dioxide levels. Regulation of say blood flow is important to maintain a stable glomerular filtration rate that we know despite changes in systemic blood pressure, that is it occurs within when the blood pressure is maintained say within 80 to 180 mm of mercury. In a mechanism called tubuloglomerular feedback that you have learned, the kidney changes its own blood flow in response to changes in sodium concentration. Now just give a look to this figure, that is, it shows here cerebral autoregulation. Now on y-axis it shows the cerebral flow, blood flow, and say on x-axis it shows here say mean arterial pressure. Now this say, look at this, say that is a curve which is recorded. Say this blue part is the autoregulate, means you may say we will take here say approximately the pressure say more than 50 mm to the say about say that is the 100 and say that is 50 mm. Here you will find that blood flow remains constant. But however, say if there is say that is the decrease in the cerebral blood flow, that is the cerebral blood flow, when it occurs during hypoxia, there you will find there occurs a decrease in the cerebral blood flow according to the say that is the mean arterial pressure changes. Similarly, say if there is increase in the say that is the cerebral blood pressure, suppose that let us assume that it is now it becomes more than say 160 mm of mercury, what you will find there will occur vasoconstriction, and here say that is the cerebral blood flow will be maintained at this say this level, and it will cause headaches, and that is the say that is the blood brain barrier, and that occur headache, blood brain say disruption, and that will lead to the edema. Now in the cerebral autoregulation, as we know that there are two say that is the theories which have been put forth, metabolic theory and a myogenic say theory. This may be the possible mechanism. In the metabolic say that is the mechanism, it mainly occurs due to decreased perfusion pressure, which leads to decrease in the partial pressure of oxygen, leading to decrease in the oxygen delivery. Second, if there is an increase in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, mean what does it mean? There is an accumulation of carbon dioxide and there is no washout of accumulated carbon dioxide. There is increase in the hydrogen ion concentration. What does it mean? It is decreased hydrogen say washout plus there is accumulation of lactic acid. Similarly, say there is an increase in the adenosine release. Now that is say results in the hypoxia, resulting in the net loss of ATP or caused due to the hypoxia. Each of the above changes produce vasodilation. In the myogenic theory, say that is decreased perfusion pressure decreases stretching of arteriolar smooth muscle, which causes say that is their relaxation and help here to say self-regulate, that is the blood pressure. Now just give a look to this figure. It shows here say two conditions. This is say blue, say that is the curve indicate the change, the say that is a normotensive say regulation of say that is the auto-regulation of blood pressure. Secondly, this is the change which has occurred due to the hypertension. You will find the shifting of the curve, and it indicates that how say that is the auto-regulation varies. Similarly, there is the other mechanism of the substances which acts as a vasodilator, and that is these are the vasodilator metabolites. Now decrease in the partial pressure of oxygen and pH in most of the tissues produce vasodilation. These changes cause relaxation of the arterioles and the precapillary sphincters. Increase in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and osmolality also dilate the vessels. Increased temperature and accumulation of potassium ions also contribute to vasodilation. And lactate may also contribute to vasodilation, just I have mentioned that previously. Now there occurs localized vasoconstriction. The injured arteries and the arterioles constrict strongly, that we know. This constriction is caused in part due to the local secretion of serotonin, which is mostly found in say that is the brain boils and that is the platelets. Now injured veins also constrict. Decrease in temperature also cause vasoconstriction. We have seen that the say increase in the temperature acts as a vasodilator and decrease in the temperature acts as a vasoconstrictor. Now there are certain substances secreted by endothelium Endothelium secretes many growth factors and vasoactive substances such as prostaglandin, thromboxane, nitric oxide, and endothelins. Prostacyclin is say produced by endothelial cells and thromboxane A2 by platelets. Now thromboxane A2 promotes platelet aggregation and vasoconstriction, whereas prostacyclin inhibits platelet aggregation and promote vasoconstriction. They are opposing in action. Endothelium also secretes endothelium derived releasing factor, we call it the EDRF, and nitric say that is oxide NO, which is also causes here that is the vasodilation. Carbon monoxide produces local dilation in blood vessels. Endothelial cells also produce endothelin 1, which acts as potent vasoconstriction. There are many circulating substances which affect the vascular system, such as the circulating vasodilator substances as kinins, for example, bradykinin and calidin. VIP means vasoactive intestinal peptide. ANP, we have seen, atrial natriuretic peptide secreted by atria. Circulating vasoconstricting hormones, which include vasopressin, that is ADH, norepinephrine and epinephrine, and angiotensin II. Active hyperemia is the increase in the organ, say blood flow. We have seen the definition, that is associated with increased metabolic activity of an organ or tissue. In short, say what is active hyperemia? Is the increase in the organ blood flow that is associated with increased metabolic activity of an organ or tissue. An example of say active hyperemia is the increase in the blood flow that accompanies muscle contraction or which occurs during exercise, which is also called as exercise or functional hyperemia in skeletal muscle. In this situation, blood flow increases because increased oxygen consumption of say muscles during contraction stimulates the production of vasoactive substances that dilate the resistance vessels in skeletal muscle. Other examples include here the increase in the gastrointestinal blood flow during digestion of food, the increase in the coronary blood flow when the heart rate is increased, and the increase in the cerebral flow associated with increased neuronal activity in the brain. Now this is the example of hyperemia. It shows a normal say that is the capillary bed, we may say. Now when say there occurs increase in the say that is the blood flow, and that we call as the hyperemia. You can see here engorgement of that is the blood vessel which occurs say during exercise or inflammation due to the contracting muscle. Second factor is that is the say the more say that is supply of that is oxygen. Now just give a look to this figure. So it shows here say relationship blood flow and that is the oxygen consumption. Now the figure shows that there is a resting blood flow associated with the basal oxygen consumption of the tissue, that we call it here as a resting flow. Whenever now here say as the muscle activity increases, now what does it mean? Oxygen consumption increases and there occurs increase in the blood flow. And as the oxygen consumption increases, there is generally a near linear increase in the blood flow is observed until the vessels begin to achieve a maximally dilated state. The magnitude of active hyperemia responses differ among organs because of the relative changes in metabolic activity from rest and their vasodilatory capacity. Active hyperemia can result in up to a 50-fold increase in muscle blood flow with a maximal exercise, whereas cerebral blood flow may only increase to 2-fold with increased neuronal activity. Active hyperemia can also be influenced by competing vasoconstrictor mechanisms. For example, sympathetic activation during exercise can reduce the maximal skeletal muscle hyperemia compared to what would occur in the absence of sympathetic activation. Active hyperemia may be due to combination of tissue hypoxia and generation of vasodilator metabolites such as potassium ion, carbon dioxide, nitric oxide and adenosine. Now coming to the reactive hyperemia. Now the reactive hyperemia is what? Is the transient increase in the organ blood flow that occurs following a brief period of ischemia. For example, it means this ischemia will be mainly caused due to the arterial occlusion. Reactive hyperemia occurs following the removal of a tourniquet, arm cuff during recording of blood pressure, unclamping an artery during surgery, or restoring flow to a coronary artery after recanalization. Means reopening of closed artery using an angioplasty balloon or clot dissolving drug also is an example of reactive hyperemia. In general, the ability of an organ to display reactive hyperemia is similar to its ability to display autoregulation. During hyperemia, the tissue becomes reoxygenated and vasodilator metabolites are washed out of the tissue. This causes the resistance vessels to regain their normal vascular tone, thereby returning flow to control. The longer the period of occlusion, the greater the metabolic stimulus for vasodilation, leading to increases in peak reactive hyperemia and duration of hyperemia. Depending upon the organ, maximal vasodilation as indicated by peak flow may occur following less than 1 minute. For example, coronary circulation of complete arterial occlusion or may require several minutes of occlusion that is observed in the gastrointestinal circulation. In the myogenic mechanism may also contribute to reactive hyperemia in some tissues. By this mechanism, arterial occlusion results in a decrease in a pressure downstream in the arterioles which can lead to the myogenic mediated vasodilation. Now you can give a look to this figure. The figure at my left hand side, you will say that this is the blood flow and it is occluded, and after say 2 minutes the occlusion is released, you will find there will occur say increase in the say peak flow, and that will cause say excess flow. It shows here flow or the duration of the flow, here say the excess flow or hyperemia duration. Now what will happen? Say that will cause here, if you can say, that is depending upon say duration of the occlusion, you will find the changes in the say that is the peak flow or excess flow, or that is depending on that is the hyperemia duration. So the third type of say that is hyperemia commonly called as a congestion. There are various types of say hyperemia, but now this type of hyperemia, it results from impaired venous drainage or return and leads to accumulation of the blood on the venous side of the circulation, causing or with the blue-red coloration of the affected part as the blood is deoxygenated. The congestion is almost always say observed as a pathological condition. Just give a look to this figure. What you will find that say in the brief, say that is the congestion which occurs here say due to the hypoxia, and there will occur accumulation of the blood, and that will cause say that the blue-red coloration, and this is say caused due to the decreased outflow. For example, that is observed local obstruction, congestive heart failure, tissues blue due to say engorgement by deoxygenated blood. In short, say this ends here, that is the series of 2 lectures on the regulation of that is the say blood pressure. Now, what we have seen, that is we have seen first the definition of blood pressure, then how it is recorded, then also we have seen that is the pathological and physiological factors affecting the blood pressure, and we have seen that is the say that the blood pressure abnormalities. Then very important aspect that we were talking here is about, that is how this blood pressure is regulated or the regulatory mechanism. And we have seen it is say divided into three categories. What are they? That is the short acting or rapidly acting mechanism, intermediate acting mechanism, and long term mechanism. Similarly, also we have seen the role of, say, that is a local mechanism, auto-regulation, then local that is the types of hyperemia, and the role of various vasodilator substances and the hormones. I stop here. Thank you for watching.